So Ramya, one of my viewers, had this question: if you pay taxes on the interest earned from your savings and investments here in the UK. And many of you may not be aware that yes, you actually need to pay taxes on the interest earned from your savings. But I pay nothing because there are several tricks you can do to avoid paying this tax, all completely legal. So I'll break this down into two categories. First is the interest earned from savings, and the second is the interest earned from investments. Under savings, there's something called the personal savings threshold. I'll explain what it is in a minute. And there's things that you can do if you're under this limit and if you're over this limit. And if it's an investment, there is ISA, there is pension, and there's something called a GIA, a general investment account. Firstly, I talk about interest earned from savings. So to understand this a little bit better, you need to know what a personal savings threshold is. So all of us taxpayers have got something called a personal savings threshold. And over this threshold, we pay taxes on the interest earned. And below this threshold, we do not pay taxes on this threshold. And what this threshold is different for different people. It mainly depends on two different criteria. First is your tax band, whether you're a 20% tax band or below that, or non-taxpayer. If you're a higher rate taxpayer or an additional rate taxpayer. Most of us are aware of which tax band we are in. If your earnings are up to 50,570, it changes each year, but 2022-23, that's the threshold. So if your earnings are up to that limit, you're a 20% taxpayer. Between 50,570 and 150,000 pounds, you're a higher rate taxpayer, pay tax at 40%, and earnings over 150,000, you're an additional rate taxpayer. So if you're a basic rate tax holder, you can actually earn up to £1,000 in interest before you pay any tax on it. And with the interest rate being roughly around 1%, this means that if you have savings over £85,000, only then you pay any taxes on your interest. For a higher rate taxpayer, you can earn £500 of interest. So this equates to, with the current interest rate sitting at around 1% for savings accounts, this sits at around £45,000. And if you're an additional rate taxpayer, you get no personal savings threshold. So as you can see, most of us will fall within this personal savings allowance threshold. If at all you go over the personal savings threshold, so you have savings over £85,000, or if you have savings over £45,000 as a higher rate taxpayer, or if you're an additional rate taxpayer and you pay interest on taxes on all the interest that you earn, then you can consider something called a cash ISA. A cash ISA, all the interest that you earned is tax-free. Often the interest you get from a cash ISA account is less than just a regular savings account with a bank. So for most of us, it is okay to open a savings account with any bank because we sit under the personal savings threshold. But if you're over the personal savings threshold, then consider having that money in a cash ISA. The next part is interest earned on investment, which tends to be higher than the interest earned from a savings account. So the money you get from investing in stocks and shares is actually in two different parts. One is the growth of the stock. So if you invest in a company A and the company A grows by 10% each year, so the value of the company grows, so your money grows by 10% each year. So that is the growth element of it. There is also a thing called a dividend element. So this is a share of the profits because you are a shareholder of the company. So they give you a share of the profits. So certain companies gives you a share of the profit. Some growth companies like Amazon or Facebook want to grow quicker, so they roll in the profits to grow the company quicker. So some companies give you dividends, some just use up those profits to grow the company quicker. So you can actually invest in three different pots of money. This is like saving jars. You may have a holiday fund, you may have a new car fund, you may have a wedding fund. So you invest for different time frames. So the one pot is the ISA, the second pot is the pension, the third pot is called a GIA or a general investment account, and each has different tax advantages. Within ISA, all the growth, whether it's dividends or the growth of the company, is completely tax-free. Imagine not one penny in tax is paid if you invested in ISA. Second pot, pension. All the growth within the pension is completely tax-free, whether it's from dividends or actually value of the company has gone up. But when you withdraw that money to then spend in the future, you then pay taxes depending on your tax bands. So you may be thinking that investing in a ISA is better than investing in a pension because you pay no taxes when you're withdrawing the money. That's not the case, because the pension money goes before your tax is taken away, and then some employees contribute as well. So you have employees contribution on top of that. So there's a lot more money going into your pension, and it grows for a lot longer because you cannot touch that money till your retirement age. So more money going in and growing for a lot more years. So the money pot in a pension is often much higher than the money sat in an ISA. There's a third pot of money called a general investment account. This is a completely taxed account. So all the growth, all the dividends can be taxed. There's some thresholds, I'll explain that in a minute. But most of us will not need to use, or will have very little money in a general investment account, because our ISA allowance per tax year, per tax holder, per person is £20,000 per year, and our pension allowance is £40,000 per year. So if you maximize both of it, it's £60,000. That is, if you divide that by 12, it is £5,000 per month of savings. So that too is per person. So there's very few of us who have that kind of money to save. So there's very few people who have a general investment account. I have a general investment account, but this is for very small amounts of money that I actually trade. Most of my money sits in my ISA, and my pension are long-term growth funds, but I have a small pot of money that I just try my luck with trading. So for the money sat in my trading account, I have two allowances. There is a capital gains allowance. So remember I told you the company grows from year to year. So this is the capital gain of that company. So if it grows under £12,300 each tax year, we pay no tax on it. So say for example, you invest £1,000 in a company, and that company magically goes up to £15,000 next year. So to withdraw that money completely tax-free, what you need to do is sell, say, under £12,000, £12,300 of worth of shares in that next tax year, and so you pay no tax on it. And then the rest of the profits, the additional £2,000, £3,000, you sell it the following tax year, and you've again paid no tax on it. So that's how you make the maximum use of your capital gains allowance. The only small problem is you cannot then rebuy the same shares. So if you sell company A to make use of your capital gains allowance, you cannot then rebuy company A for another 30 days. You can buy company B, C, or D, but not company A for 30 days. There is a second allowance called dividend allowance. Remember I told you that the company gives us a share of the profits for being a shareholder of that company. As taxpayers, we have £2,000 per tax year as dividend allowance. So between the capital gains allowance and dividend allowance, and because very small amounts of money is possibly going into a GIA account, there's not a lot of us who will need to pay taxes using a GIA account. So I hope it's now clear that although we do pay taxes on our interest earned, there's lots of things you can do to mitigate those taxes. The property tax, if you invest in property, that's a totally different ball game. There's lots of different rules that apply for that. If you like to know a little bit more about investing in property, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll try and do a video on that if there's anyone who's interested in it. You may want to check out my other video on saving more money on taxes. Until next time, stay safe. Bye-bye.